So we have our first legitimate looks at Jon Bernthal's return as the Punisher or Frank Castle to the MCU, and this is really exciting for a ton of reasons. Normally I don't really talk about set picks or things like this because they kind of stray into leaks territory and that's dangerous, especially for spoilers and stuff like that, but this especially seems to be given an okay by Disney because Variety brought out a big article featuring these, as well as some little Daredevil Born Again teases. I guess maybe because this is the best way to drum up hype. We hadn't really heard that Jon was Frank and that he was officially back from anyone at Marvel yet. We pretty much knew he was, but in terms of like official articles and stuff like that, there wasn't really anything. Even Bernthal himself had been playing pretty coy about the whole thing back in January when he was asked about it in the wake of the Defenders stuff. But Bernthal also posted a behind the scenes picture of him, Charlie and Deborah, which also makes this the first legitimate official non-set leaked picture that shows us that Karen is back, which is awesome. Like, we've known she was back, but outside of industry insiders and leaked pictures, no one at Marvel has really come out and said anything about Karen or Foggy until now. I kind of want to discuss some of this cool Born Again news, but can I just say that it's kind of really annoying that Variety's tweet that accompanied this article said that this is Jon Bernthal's first official entry as Frank Castle into the MCU, which brings us back to what the TV shows have been fighting against for the last few years, which is, you know, back into that conversation, the TV shows are MCU and what aren't debate. And I really thought we finally had reached a point where these trades would just kind of accept that these shows are canon now. Like, back in January, we got the big Disney Plus official MCU timeline list, and that included every Marvel Netflix show. That's as confirmed as you can get that these shows are in the official MCU. And like, Punisher was on that list. So it's really annoying that we're just back to having to justify why these characters are already in the MCU. And I don't think this is just that Variety has some inside knowledge on the matter, but I do think it's just the case of whoever was writing that tweet and the article believing that the Netflix stuff technically don't count as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though they for sure do. But before jumping into talking about some of the information we got in the article, it is worth saying that we have our very first snippet of real footage from the show, and it's less than a second long. Like, it's tiny, it's nothing. It's the very briefest of low resolution shots of just Charlie in the suit very quickly turning his head. It isn't even the full suit, it's just his head. Like, we're starving here. This is literal crumbs. This is like you're just about to barely be able to smell the food that is cooking really far away. Like, you're walking on a street that has your favorite food place, but you're at the completely other side of the street, and you kind of just get the tiniest of hints of that smell. This is like Chicken Hut for me, okay? Chicken Hut's the greatest food place to ever have existed, and it's in my town. And getting this snippet of Daredevil Born Again is like, I'm on the completely other side of the street, and Chicken Hut is over there, they're cooking. Anyway, tangent over, it's the tiniest of things we could have gotten, but it was hype. The actual title for the article is similar to the tweet where it says, "The Punisher is back, Jon Bernthal enters the MCU," which, that's so contradictory. Like, if he's back then he's already in the MCU, I don't know. And like, this is such a weird title as well, because it would have meant everything to just title it like Jon Bernthal returns to Punisher role on the set of Daredevil Born Again. Like, why add that part about him entering the MCU? Because you're just disappointing that section of fans that are fighting for their lives online every week to get these shows their recognition. And you're also not really satisfying anyone, because these Netflix shows are kind of the ones that the majority seem to be okay with being officially brought back into the MCU. It also maybe could just be me reading too much into it. The Netflix stuff was almost entirely made through Marvel's television division, while Born Again will be officially through Marvel Studios' banner. So maybe this is just a way of saying, hey, this character is now in a project that has Marvel Studios involvement for the first time. But if that's the case, then just say Marvel Studios. Don't say entry to the MCU. Getting sidetracked again. I always get into this habit of talking about the canon situation in every single one of these videos. But Variety's article discusses the returning cast. Karen, Foggy, Bullseye being the newcomers that we found out about recently, while Matt, Fisk, and to a lesser extent Frank have been known since the original version of Born Again was still being developed. The article once again does this annoying thing where it says the show officially brings all these characters into the proper Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, we get it. You don't consider the Marvel Netflix stuff canon. They are, but okay. The next parts of the article just kind of give brief summaries of the characters, what we've already known, the development troubles the old version had, pieces from the OG Born Again season being kept, which we've also known for a while. The Foggy Karen stuff shot back in January and maybe early February if I remember right, were supposedly very similar to what the original version of the show had story-wise. And then some of the new set pictures we've seen of the Frank Matt stuff featuring a cop character with a Punisher logo also ties very heavily into what we know of the original story being to do with cops, seemingly idolizing Frank, and he doesn't take too kindly to that. The article also discusses how elements of pre-existing material from the old version will be used, which it's going to be a fun game to try and spot what is old footage and what isn't. Disney are great at post-production, so with a grade on top of this show, it'll probably be nearly impossible to tell what is new footage and what is old footage, but it'll be a fun game nonetheless. Interestingly here, the article says it's unclear if the show is still 18 episodes. Interesting because we heard some information that was apparently leaked that we were looking at a traditional Netflix 13 episode season, so it looks like the episode count isn't as confirmed as we thought. Personally, I would hope it is closer to 18 just because I'm expecting Disney to split this up since it's so much longer than the usual 6 episode seasons, so I'm very much anticipating that there will be months between when the parts or the arcs of this show comes out, and if it's only 13 episodes, that'll be like 2 blocks of episodes maybe, whereas with 18 we could get 3 chunks, maybe just even 2 longer chunks. They mentioned how the show still doesn't have a release date, but from Disney's release schedule from a while ago, like their in-house non-public one, the show was said to be still slated for late 2024, early 2025, so we could be looking at maybe a Christmas drop for these first episodes, which will be really cool. I remember some of the set pictures for the old version of Born Again had snow, so maybe could line things up if the early episodes are set at all during a winter period. Deadline did chime in with their article about 30 minutes after the Variety one. They correctly, I'm joking, but they nicely, I guess, titled their article simply that John returns. Nothing about him joining or entering the MCU. But now, the Deadline article isn't as beefy, doesn't have nearly as much info, but one thing they do have that isn't in the Variety article is that it's a 2-season series, which I've yet to see mentioned anywhere else. Now, Deadline obviously doesn't give sources or say where this particular piece of information comes from, so I guess I'd be a little skeptical to believe it straight away, but this could potentially mean that there are still 18 episodes, but now it could be maybe 2 seasons of like 9 episodes each. One season comes out late this year and early 2025, and then the other 9 episodes in like early or late 2026. Now that's completely speculation, but I honestly could see this being the move, mainly because 18 episodes, even 13 episodes, is so vastly different to what Disney Plus has been doing for their Marvel shows. With What If, we already have a precedent set for them doing a 9-episode season, so I think just based off of their prior shows, it's potentially what's happening here. We'll see. I do hope this isn't the case, but I also just can't wait for new Daredevil and Punisher in any shape or form. But what do you think about these set picks and all the cool new tiny bits of info? I've been really enjoying the little bits we've been getting out every few weeks, although personally I do think the show is predominantly outside street shoots means that a lot of this show is leaking that maybe shouldn't be, and I'm not talking about Punisher stuff specifically, more so just that I feel like a lot of the major stunts have already spread over Twitter pretty crazily over the last few months because of the nature of the outside shoot. But I'm hyped. Would be awesome to get the show late this year, we'll see. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, maybe consider dropping a subscribe or a like. Planning a few more Marvel related videos for over the next little while, so we'll see what happens. But if you think anyone you know would enjoy this video or any of my videos, make sure to share them. And thanks so much for watching and have an amazing day.